It has been a soggy day here in Milwaukee, but we've seen the transition over to snow to the west. When that transition makes it into the city, in your forecast coming up.
I've been tracking voters across the Cream City today, why many are heading out in the rainy conditions to cast their spring ballot.
And we're tracking early voting turnout in Wisconsin. I'll show you 3 counties that make up nearly half of all the early absentee voting and how we are doing compared to the last time we had a presidential primary.
Opening day is like Christmas morning for us Brewer fans. You know, you wake up and you just got all them butterflies.
We've been waiting all winter for this day. It's a good thing we have a roof on American Family Field because it's winter outside. A live look from the ballpark where, despite the weather, it is opening day, how fans are braving some absolutely dismal conditions. TMJ4 News at 4 starts right now.
Connecting you with Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and the world. This is TMJ4 News at 4.
Oh, to be warm and cozy inside. Thanks for joining us on the News at 4. I'm Steve Chamraz.
And I'm Susan. Kim, first at 4, we have a lot going on this afternoon with the Brewers playing their home opener right now and voters heading to the polls on this election day. The one thing impacting both is this nasty weather we have going on. We're hearing from people who say they vote in every election, rain or shine. And hardy Brewers fans tailgating in their ponchos on this opening day despite the wet and cold weather.
We're going to begin in the parking lots of American Family Field. As you saw, a lot of fans did not let the wind and rain stop their opening day tailgating tradition. The smell of brats was still in the air like it always is this time of year. Tents, grills, even an 83 limited edition Chevy Brewers van. 83, what a year. All in all, it looked like a Brewers home opener, just with a lot of really cold rain as the backdrop.
This is opening day, we don't miss it. And you just, you buck up and bring your equipment and you're good to go.
Well, I've tailgated a lot worse. That is for sure in Wisconsin. But opening day's tradition. It's a holiday. We got to come out here and make it happen.
Sombrero keeping you dry. Brilliant man right there. Fans making it happen with some burgers on the grill. They're even dancing in the puddles. A lot of smiles on yet another Brewers opening day. It is, you pull the kids out of school for this.
Yeah, it's a holiday.
You call in sick to work.
You don't have to tailgate unless you want to.
There are other options.
We're looking at American Family Field right now. It's slow going on the freeway there.
Some could argue that you might even prefer snow standing out there than this pouring rain.
Because you're just drenched.
Wind. Yeah, you're soaked in. We're starting to see that transition moving a little bit farther to the east. You can see that on the Storm 4 Max radar. We had a quad box up just a minute ago in the far right lower corner. That was Jefferson County, right where Highway 26 intersects 94, and certainly a snowy scene out that way. You can see the snow is coming down Jefferson County, Dodge County. It is dumping in Dodge County there. Same for Fond du Lac as well. Let's take a little closer look. You can see that rain-snow transition line kind of weaving back and forth right around Plymouth. Let's go a little bit farther south. Same story for West Bend. You're right on that transition as well. Same story for the west side of Waukesha out towards Lake Country, Oconomowoc. You're finding yourselves right on the edge of that rain-snow line. This is a live look in West Bend, and yes, we have snowflakes and likely starting to see some slushy accumulation. 36 degrees the current temperature. Wind is out of the north at 12 miles per hour. So here's a look at your evening planner for Milwaukee. I do think by 6 o'clock we are starting to see some snow trying to mix in. By 8 o'clock, a chance of snow, but also a chance we kind of get a dry slot or a little bit of a lull. And then by 10 o'clock, a chance of snow as well. Looking at the worst travel conditions, I think that occurs later on tonight into tomorrow morning for the Milwaukee area. We'll let you know how long this all sticks around and how much you might have to shovel in your forecast coming up.
Shoveling in April. All right, Brian, thanks. Folks across our region are also braving the weather and heading to the polls for the presidential primary and spring election.
Our Jenna Ray's been to a number of polling locations around town, checking on voter turnout and the big races. She joins us now from Milwaukee Marshall High School. What's on voters' minds, Jenna?
Steve and Susan, the MPS referendum, Milwaukee Public Schools, definitely at the top of mind for many voters. As you mentioned, I've been to several polling locations across Milwaukee today, and nearly every single voter who I've talked to has said the MPS referendum is the most important for them. As for voter turnout, it depends on the polling location. About an hour ago, I was on the south side at South Division High School, where they only had about a dozen voters so far today. This afternoon, I was also at Riverside High School on Milwaukee's east side. They had a pretty large turnout for about 200 at around 2:30 this afternoon. Voters I talked to say despite the raining conditions, it was important for them to get out and vote today.
I think it's important as an American citizen to vote in every election. I come out for every primary and every general election that I can.
There are a lot of people who've been deprived of this privilege in our history, so I think we have a duty to them to step out even in the rain and vote.
Clock just turned 4:05, which means you have more than 3 hours to hit the polls before they close tonight at 8 citywide. So if you're at work, heading home from work, there is still time to find your closest polling location and cast your ballot in today's spring primary. We'll have more for this coming up on TMJ4 News tonight at 5. For now, we're live on Milwaukee's north side. I'm Jenna Ray for TMJ4 News.
Quiet in some places. Jenna Ray, thank you so much for that.
And as Jenna mentioned a little bit more about that MPS referendum, decisions made at the polls today could drastically impact Milwaukee Public Schools.
Right now, the district is asking voters to approve a $252 million referendum. That money would come from higher property taxes, and voters need to decide if they are willing to dig deeper for MPS.
If the $252 million referendum does pass, taxpayers would pay about $216 more per $100,000 home value. If the budget boost does not pass, MPS says cuts and layoffs could follow, along with transportation impacts and decreased access to music and art. This is one of 91 referendums on ballots around the state today.
Some important election decisions on ballots across southeast Wisconsin.
Our Kaylee Staral covers Waukesha County and Jeffrey Zampanti covers Kenosha County. So let's get a pulse of what's happening in those communities. We start with our Jeffrey Zampanti in Kenosha.
I'm your Kenosha reporter, Jeffrey Zampanti at Gateway Technical College, where a steady stream of voters have been coming through the doors all day long. There are several big races on the Kenosha ballot, including mayor, where Kenosha will elect only its third mayor in the past 30 years. Lydia Spotswood is a former city alderwoman and current city commissioner. Her opponent is David Bogdala, a longtime city alderman who has received endorsements from the police and fire union. You'll hear from the winner tonight at 10 p.m. We are covering several other races in southeast Wisconsin. For that, let's go to Kaylee Staral in Waukesha.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm outside Parkview Middle School in Mukwonago, where the school district wants to demolish this school and rebuild a new middle school for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. To do that, the district is asking voters to approve a more than $100 million referendum. That would raise property taxes on average of $200 a year for a $300,000 home. In 2016, voters approved a nearly $50 million referendum to update the high school. I will be here today talking with voters and bring you results on this race tonight at 10. In Mukwonago, Kaylee Staral, TMJ4 News.
All right, our chief political reporter, Charles Benson, joins us live now with what he's watching today. Hey, Charles.
Yeah, we're just not seeing a lot of early voting. Take a look at the numbers so far. Fewer than 100,000 people have voted in person across the state. The purple counties you see there is where there's been most of the activities. When you add in all the people who have voted early with an absentee ballot, we're talking 261,000 across the state. Let me zero in on 3 counties that will show you where 45% of the vote has been coming. And of course, not surprised here, right? Milwaukee County with about 47,000 votes as we take a closer look here at the counties with the highest vote totals. Waukesha County at about 30,000. And then Dane County, which is the second biggest county in the state, we're talking 34,000 votes. But look at what's happening in Milwaukee County. Let me show you what's happening there. All right, ballots returned so far, 47,000. But in person, just under 20,000. Where today would you see more than 20,000 people?
Right.
The stadium.
Yeah, so there you go.
More people at the stadium today than voted in person in Milwaukee County.
There's a presidential election on the ballot today, but that doesn't seem to be the big driver of people to the polls. I mean, the referendum in the city of Milwaukee is a big deal. But we're going to be able to learn something about the state of politics in Wisconsin from the way people vote in this presidential primary.
In the presidential
It's more of a tea leaves things than a result.
It is. We know that Donald Trump and Joe Biden will win tonight. I can predict that with 100% confidence, okay?
That's
because
pretty good.
that's where it is right now. But let me show you something that we're going to be watching tonight, and that is in the presidential races, okay? Yes, Donald Trump is on the ballot and is expected to win, but how many votes will Nikki Haley get? She's still on the ballot, but has officially dropped out. The other key race we want to look at is Joe Biden in the Democratic side. Yes, he will get the nomination. He will win tonight, but how many people will vote uninstructed? This is what is being seen as a protest vote. How many people will say they're not ready to vote for Joe Biden, but they want to send a message that they're not happy with him right now? So the uninstructed, where we have seen in Michigan and other parts of the country, has become an interesting watch, and that is one of the things we will be watching tonight. Steve and Susan?
All right, Charles, thanks.
We learned this morning President Joe Biden will be back in Wisconsin Monday, just a few weeks after his overnight stay in Milwaukee last month. This time the president will stop in Madison and then move down to Chicago. We'll have more details on the presidential visit once we know them.
And former President Donald Trump will be in Wisconsin today. He'll be landing in Green Bay later this evening after making a campaign stop in Grand Rapids, Michigan earlier today. This is the former president's first trip to Wisconsin since 2022, when he visited at that time to support then candidate for governor Tim Michels. The candidates' visits to Wisconsin reinforce the state's battleground status in the upcoming presidential election.
Our reporter Harm Venhuizen, who's based in Madison, explains why these visits are so important to both campaigns.
Former President Donald Trump is hosting a rally in Green Bay tonight, and President Joe Biden will be here in Madison on Monday. But what do their visits mean for voters, and why choose the specific locations that they do?
Visiting them in person and seeing what's really going on is really important.
Eileen Perez is a first-year pre-med student studying neurobiology at UW-Madison. Tuesday was her first time voting.
I feel like being able to hear them speak publicly, and even if you get the opportunity to have them answer some of your questions, I feel like that can really help people, especially like first-time voters like me.
In battleground Wisconsin, it's all about making voters feel heard and excited. Biden defeated Trump here in 2020 by less than 1% of the vote. 4 years later, the margins are still razor thin.
Some Wisconsinites in Madison and Milwaukee, in Green Bay, in some of the more rural parts of the state, may well see Donald Trump or Joe Biden more than they see some of their friends and neighbors in the fall of 2024.
Mike Wagner researches the way voters and politicians communicate. He says places like Brown County, where Trump won in 2020, and Dane County, where Biden received overwhelming support, will be crucial this year. Biden visited Milwaukee last month to energize voters. Trump's last visit to Wisconsin was during the 2022 midterm.
Coming to Wisconsin and trying to persuade somewhere between 0.5 and 1% of the population to either show up and vote for you when they wouldn't have otherwise, or switch their vote, is really the only way these candidates can kind of change their fortune.
Ahead of November, one thing is certain: these visits won't slow down. Republicans are set to host their national convention in Milwaukee this summer. And President Biden has opened dozens of campaign offices across the state. In Madison, Harm Venhuizen, TMJ4 News.
Thank you, Harm.
You still have time to vote today. Polls close at 8 o'clock. You will need a photo ID. You can register to vote at your polling location. All you have to do is bring proof of residency, like a utility bill. Find out what's on your ballot before going to the polls at tmj4.com/America Votes. Opening day is really a rite of passage every spring.
Let's go back to a warm and dry. Lance Allan inside American Family Field with how opening day has unfolded.
Yeah, so far so good. You know, the rain outside can't dampen the spirits of the Brewers fans inside as they lead the game, and what Pat Murphy, the new manager, is instilling in this team. That's all coming up in just a couple of minutes.
TMJ